Europe and its people need to shape up and face the brutal facts and come together as a community.
Rising interest rates increase the debt servicing cost, heightening the financial risk of highly levered businesses.
You create welfare by taking risk, being bold, and hard work.
Inflation is not necessarily a problem, it is a challenge that you need to cope with.
Entrepreneurship, fast and effective decision-making is key.
It's true that the coming years will present us with a host of challenges, but also just as many opportunities.
My advice to other entrepreneurs is that in difficult times, stick to your strategy.
But what if there are no entrepreneurs anymore willing to invest?
Melexis is always on the lookout for new opportunities. And though our physical product is a chip of the non-edible type, right? A semiconductor, our business is really innovation. So we continuously invest into innovation and into our people, no matter whether the economy is tough or less tough.
The current macroeconomic climate has not really affected our business strategy, but it has had impact on our business operations. I would say mainly in the fields of procurement, supply chain, and also commercial strategies towards our customers, because there was inflation and we had to cope with important price increases towards our customers.
Turbulent market environments have historically been some of the strongest vintages for private equity returns. This is driven in part because fund managers continue to deploy capital through cycles and can therefore selectively buy companies at lower valuations in more challenging times. It's true that the coming years will present us with a host of challenges, but also just as many opportunities.
It's obvious that macroeconomic factors such as inflation, interest rates, terrorism, disruptions in supply chain have a huge impact on our businesses. But we deal with them. We did it in the past, we will do it now, we will do it in the future. As an investor, we hate uncertainty. We like to work in a stable, secure, and predictable environment.
Melexis has a leadership position in our core automotive market with edge sensors and edge drivers. And building from that strength, we've been stepping up our investments into markets beyond automotive, like robotics, alternative mobility, sustainability solutions, and health applications.
Europe, Belgium, and Flanders has no long-term economic plan or vision today. Stronger, there is even an absence in society of the necessity of such a plan. I think we forget where welfare and well-being comes from. You create welfare and well-being by taking risk, being bold, and hard work. The only growing business is the advisory business, which helps companies to try to comply with these regulators. But what if there are no entrepreneurs anymore willing to invest?
As we stuck to our business strategy and we did not want to compromise on that, the crisis did not really have an impact on our investment projects because we wanted to continue executing our strategy, and so we, even in certain areas or certain countries, accelerated on our investment strategies to take advantage of opportunities in the market.
Semiconductors are notorious for being in the center of geopolitical tensions. Our industry has been thriving for over half a century on the fact that it was completely global. There are many interdependencies, and thinking that one geopolitical bloc could become self-sufficient is, according to me, a fantasy. Luckily, Melexis is not too much impacted by trade sanctions because we deliver into civil applications, automotive and others, and not into 5G or defense, which are, of course, politically speaking, much more sensitive.
One of the biggest challenges for private equity are rising interest rates, and therefore fund managers, they have to apply their deep industry expertise and engage actively with their portfolio companies in order to increase revenue, improve operational efficiencies, retain talent, and increase the bottom line before eventually selling a company at a higher valuation than it was acquired for. Increasing productivity is probably one of the only sources of future growth for the aging Western economy.
I try to invest in global brands that are active all over the world. I'm more pessimistic regarding local and European brands. But for my own investment, I still have some investments that are bound to the ground. And that means that like sports, like real estate, that I have to handle and tackle the local issues.
Europe and its people need to shape up and face the brutal facts. And politicians should tell the truth. The coming years will be painful, but also an opportunity to become more resilient and come together as a community. Everybody has a role to play in this. For example, parents and teachers should team up to put the bar high towards the younger generation, because education is paramount. Entrepreneurs and employees should team up to focus and make their companies more resilient versus competition from outside of Europe. And policymakers and civil society should team up to weather the different storms that are hitting us and focusing on the common ground.
It's commonly known that we're leaving behind almost 40 years of ever-declining interest rates and inflation, and that we're probably going to center at a higher resting rate for the years to come. This is driven in part because of heightened geopolitics, fragmented supply chains, and demographically driven labor scarcity, to name a few. Rising interest rates increase the debt servicing cost, heightening the financial risk of highly levered businesses. Therefore, it's key to apply a more conservative debt level in new transactions in the near future. In addition, in times of economic uncertainty, a more disciplined approach to capital allocation becomes crucial. We think it's important to reserve sufficient dry powder for opportunistic investments or to support portfolio companies through challenging times.
Inflation has impacted our business, and inflation is not necessarily a problem, but it is a challenge that you need to cope with, and the only way to cope with it is to neutralize its effect for the bottom line of your company. And in our case, that meant to go for immediate price increases and manage that towards our customers. We learned to do that in our Turkish business 10 years ago. In the beginning, we were also hesitating there, but there we have inflation of 20% per year, up to even 100% 2 years ago. And the only way we learned it in the hard way, we had to translate immediately the price effects into the market. And these were the years that we were successful. So that helped us also in managing our challenge in the rest of Europe in the last years. I think we are in a situation today that probably interests are not too high, but are rather normal. We come from a rather artificial situation in the last 15 years that interest rates were very low and even close to zero. So I believe that we, but also all companies should adapt to that situation and have to realize that we come from times that we were spoiled in terms of interest rates and that we are today rather in a normalized situation.
At Integra, we built an internationally diversified private equity portfolio where we diversify across geography, vintage year, and industry in order to hedge against the impact of specific economic challenges, such as rising energy prices following Russia's invasion of Ukraine or deglobalization as a result of recent supply chain disruption, to name a few.
I'm moderately optimistic for the next 12 to 18 months. On one hand, for companies like ours, FMCG sector, I'm optimistic because we have great growth opportunities ahead. On the other hand, there will be companies that are more in the cyclical industry or were very highly dependent on the very low interest rates that will have to revisit their business models, and that will take more time. So we will have some restructurings in the market, but that is not necessarily a problem, because I think there are industries today that are really searching for talent, for people, and that will, yes, imply that there will be some shift in the labor market.
For global brands, global players, I'm positive. For local and European brands, I'm more pessimistic. We urgently need to adopt the economic policy in the interest of everyone's prosperity. Instead of constantly worrying about how big our slice of the pie will be, we should be worried if there will be a pie on the table after all.
Even if Melexis is not too much impacted by the Sino-American trade tensions, we are diversifying and localizing our supply chain. For example, one of the largest infrastructure projects of the past years is our investment into Kuching in Malaysia, a local for local supply chain, in this case Asia for Asia, helps us, of course, to remain competitive in terms of costs and supply security and speed, but it also reduces our environmental footprint. It's a capricious environment, but you can still thrive in it. Entrepreneurship, fast and effective decision-making is key. So we've re-emphasized this towards our organization, our Melexis people, and have repositioned the organization around sociocratic principles. Sociocracy as a central element has consent by discussion and decision-making of a group of people who share a goal and share a work process.
My advice to other entrepreneurs is that in difficult times, also stick to your strategy, because a good strategy has to be robust to stand in good times, but also in bad times.
What has served Melexis very well in the past is twofold. One is people focus, and the other one is the double tandem strategy execution, short and long term. Choose many diverse people whose personal values coincide with the company's values and whose personal ambition is channeled through company achievements. Then develop them. Give them the good and the bad news continuously. Speed it up, and then they can thrive together.
The second advice is that you need to pay more attention in difficult times to your risk framework. You need to monitor it better. You need to manage your stakeholders, your shareholders, but also your financial institutions. Explain them how you will continue to develop your strategy in difficult times, but also show them that you have a plan B. That creates trust.
2 is the double tandem strategy execution, and short and long term. You do have to have a long-term vision. Test it regularly with scenario thinking, articulate it well, but keep your agility because you do need to adapt continuously to the environment and keeping the long term and the short term in sync.
And last is, and it's a buzzword, I know, but it is key, be agile, stay agile, because in times like this, there are not only problems you need to manage, but above all, there are new opportunities that you can take advantage of.
At Integra, we don't think that we are spiraling into a recession. The incoming data, such as job reports and GDP growth, are still solid. We do expect central banks to start cutting interest rates more quickly in the months to come in order to protect growth. Nevertheless, we do experience some rolling sector recessions and recoveries, adding up to what we think amounts to a so-called turbulent soft landing of the economy.